Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about the top 5 legendaries you can pull as a new player that are going to set you up for success. Couple things before we get into it. One, I want to say I appreciate the support that you guys gave yesterday's video. It was a countdown similar to this with epics. You guys really seem to enjoy this kind of stuff. I'm trying some different things, so I really appreciate that you engaged with that video so well and that you seem to like it so much. Also, I am going to do 2 of these. The reason that I'm not doing a top 10 is because I'm going to talk a little bit about each champ, and this video would be an hour long, I feel like, if I tried to talk about 10 champs. So I'm going to do 5 here, and then we'll do another video where I cover another 5. Also, too, I'm sure there's going to be some differing opinions here, but I'm going to try to give good reasons for my selections for this list. So if you guys disagree, of course, head down to the comments, let me know, throw in any input, give some suggestions. I'm always up for more information in the comments. And I think that's pretty much it. Also, if you're new and you like what I'm doing here, subscribe and all that fun stuff. But let's go ahead and get into it. Coming in at the number 5 spot, I think Dutchess. Now, she's not necessarily going to be your farmer or progress you in that way, but as far as offering all-around support, as far as making the entire game easier, I think that she does a fantastic job of this, okay? She's got a speed lead for all battles, which is particularly nice as an early game player because speed is one of the things that is the biggest struggle when you're new, right? Getting that speed, getting that turn cycling. So having a champ with a speed lead in all battles, especially one like Dutchess, immediately makes the entire game easier for you, okay? Now, she's got an A1 that puts a shield on the ally with the lowest HP. So we're as players who've been playing for a while, we're all familiar with Dutchess. So I'm talking more to the newer players here. What she's doing here is she's very good at keeping your team alive and offering some support, offering some safety to your team. On top of the speed that she brings, now every time she gets a turn and she uses her A1, she's going to be putting a shield on whoever is the closest to dying on your team, right? So that's automatically a pretty good amount of support right there. Her A2, she attack buffs and block debuffs on all allies. So now what she's doing is she's giving your damage dealers, one probably your starter, your Kale, Gallic, Aethel, Elaine, she's giving them a good attack buff, so now they're going to be able to do more damage, whether that be wave clearing in dungeons, doing damage to the boss, in arena, and clan boss, anywhere that you're taking them. Now she's making them stronger. She's also putting block debuffs up on them, so now they can't be attack broken, they can't be defense broken, they can't be poison, all these things. That buff is going to have to be removed before they can take any harmful effects, which again makes your life super easy. Now, on top of this, she's putting Perfect Veil on the whole team when she uses a skill, so now they can't even be targeted. So if the enemy doesn't have AoE, then they can't even hurt the rest of your teammates, right? So it's a very powerful skill. It offers a lot of utility, and now Perfect Veil has damage reduction built into it. So now, if the enemies do have AoE, your team's going to take less damage because they have that buff up, right? So, super strong, super impactful, I should say. On top of everything else, her A3 revives all dead allies. So if she's tanky and everybody else dies and she gets this skill off, she brings everybody back to life. She brings them back to life with a Veil buff, so again, they can't be targeted and they take reduced damage if someone hits them with an AoE. And she puts continuous heals on everybody for 2 turns, so that when they get turns, they're gonna heal themselves back up over time. On top of that, she decreases the damage taken by allies from AoE attacks by 25%. 15% from bosses. So you can see the amount of safety she brings to a fight. She's going to do a fantastic job of pushing you further in the game than you really should be. If you pulled her first as a first legendary, put her on every single team you're running in the game, and she's going to make you be able to do more than you really should be capable of. She offers a tremendous amount of safety, a lot of utility. She's a killer champ. I finally just pulled one on my main. She's crazy, and I think she's pretty deserving of the number 5 spot here. So, moving on from Dutchess, we are heading to the Barbarian faction, and we're going to talk about Valkyrie. Now, I'm sure there's going to be a debate on Valkyrie versus Martyr for this, and we're going to get to that. But for now, I'm just going to talk about her. She's coming in at number 4. The reason being The reason that I think she would be so good for early game is just, again, the amount of things that she does. She's a defense champion. Her damage scales off of defense, and she's got very high base defense. Her base defense is through the roof. She's also got very good base speed. So she's going to be pretty easy to build, even if you can just get a defense set on her and a speed set on her, and you can't really even hard focus her stats the way you should be able to later on. She's still going to be good. She's still going to do damage. She still brings a lot to a fight because her base stats are just already so high. So her first skill, she hits twice. She decreases turn meter on each hit if the target has any buffs, okay? Kind of an interesting thing where if they have buffs, they take turn meter knockback. But it's still handy. Either way, it's a 2-hitter, and she does pretty good damage with this skill. Her A2 is really where a lot of her utility comes into play, especially for the early game. It's an AoE, which is very handy. It's going to help you farm. It's going to help you wave clear in dungeons. It can do a lot of things. But on top of that, it puts counterattack on the team, and it puts a shield buff that scales based on her defense stats. So the more defense you can get on her, the more of a shield she puts on the team, the more safety she offers the team, right? Another cool thing about her is that she's only got 2 active skills. So this one's on a 4-turn cooldown. So she'll use this, and then she'll just keep hitting, doing a lot of damage. She's got a 2-hitter. But there's not a bunch to think about with her, right? You use her AoE when it's up, and then you use her A1 when her AoE is not available. Beyond that, it's kind of a no-brainer. Stack defense on her, get speed on her. Look for crit stats a little later on, but she's pretty crazy. On top of that, she gets turn meter. She's got an interesting passive. It particularly shines in Arena. This champion's turn meter will be increased by 10% each time an enemy champion places a buff. Enemy champions will have their turn meters decreased by 10% for each buff they receive. This is really nice on Arena defense when teams try to come in with a Seeker or a Gorg or an Apothecary and use turn meter boost against you and put buffs up, like Seeker turn meter boost and puts attack buff on the team, right? She gets turn meter because those buffs were placed, and the enemies lose turn meter because those buffs were placed, which gives her an opportunity to cut in on whatever team is going against you in Arena. And it works on Arena defense and offense, obviously. So you can take her into these teams that use these buffs and use these turn meters and potentially cut in, throw up the AoE, do some damage, put shield up, put counterattack up, and now your team is kind of a problem to deal with. And her defense lead is unfortunately only for faction crypts. I wish that it was for all content, but you take what you can get. Either way, I think she's excellent. I think she would be a decent farmer if you didn't have a lot of other options. And again, she's someone that you can basically put on every single team that you run anywhere in the game, and she's going to contribute pretty heavily to that team's success, right? So Valkyrie. All right, now coming in at number 3, and here's where the controversy might spark. I'm putting Martyr ahead of Valkyrie on this list, right? I think that for an early game player, Martyr would be better to have than Valkyrie. That does not mean that I think Martyr is overall the better champ. I just think that for an early game player, Martyr offers more, okay? One, she's got a defense lead that works in all battles. Okay? That's the start of it. Let's talk about her kit. Again, she's also got very high base defense. Her speed is a little bit low, but that'll be okay. It's not a deal breaker for her. She's got an A1 defense break. Defense break is a very important debuff in this game, right? So taking it into dungeons and being able to put defense break on the boss, putting defense break on clan boss, putting defense break on enemies in campaign or arena, anywhere you go, it's a useful debuff. It not only enables your team to do more damage, but if you're going against a defensive scaling damage dealer, it reduces their damage. It's the equivalent of an attack break, right? So having that on our A1 is very handy, and it's really not a bad chance to land by default. You don't even really need books for this to land pretty regularly, right? Slightly less than half the time mathematically, as long as she has decent accuracy, is a pretty good chance to land for an A1 defense break. Her A2, she defense buffs the entire team and puts counterattack on everybody. Defense buff is very useful, for obvious reasons. It's going to reduce the damage that your team takes. It makes it a lot easier to push deeper into content. In the same way that Dutchess offers that damage reduction in so many ways, defense buff is very important for trying to push. I mean, it's important for every bear, but particularly clan boss and pushing into the dungeons, it's really nice to have. And the counterattack is, of course, very useful, right? Her A3, this is what really, I think, puts her ahead of Valkyrie on this list for early game players. It's an AoE that does deal a lot of damage. It's an AoE attack break, which again is very handy for the waves as you push deeper into the dungeons. The waves start to get real difficult. In a lot of cases, they're harder than the actual boss. So having an AoE decrease attack really helps your team absorb those hits. But it's the provoke. It's the opportunity to AoE provoke and make her absorb all the damage so that the rest of your team can do what they need to do. They won't have to worry about catching debuffs or getting one-shotted or whatever. This gives her an opportunity to pull that heat off of the rest of the team. And again, the defense lead in all battles means you can take her anywhere and get this leader skill. But I think that the AoE attack break and the provoke, on top of also having the defense buff and the counterattack, put her ahead of Valkyrie for this list. Now, there are other situations where maybe Valkyrie would be preferable, but again, we're talking about best legendaries for early game players. I think she's a little bit more, offers a little bit more utility, is going to be a little bit more useful all around. And she's, I mean, it's no debate. Valkyrie and Martyr are both two of the best legendaries in the game, period. But also, I think they're both really good to pull for early game players. Random quick cut. I'm sorry about that. We had to take care of something. Moving on to the number 2 spot, we have Queen Eva. Now, this might be a little controversial again, but hear me out. The reason that she comes in ahead of Valkyrie and Martyr and the others that she comes in ahead of here is because being able to farm 12-3 or wherever it is you want to farm, being able to pump out 6 stars, being able to farm and get that silver faster, these are going to speed up your overall progression, right? The faster you can make 6 stars and start building teams of full 6 stars, the more your progression, the faster you're going to be able to progress overall. So while a Dutchess will make you be able to do more content than you ordinarily would without her, and Martyr's while these other champs are going to make you capable of a little bit more sooner, Queen Eva is going to speed up your progression immediately because she's a very easy farmer to build. You can get her to 12-3 Brutal or 12-6, whichever one you want to farm. You can get her there fairly quickly with very mediocre gear. She's got very high base attack. Her base speed is fine. She's got really good damage stats. She's got really good multipliers. She's going to be able to farm for you really quickly. So we're not really even going to talk about her A1 and A2. Those are not the point. What we're going to talk about is her leader aura and her third skill. So keep this in mind. You want her to crit every time. That's what you want out of a farmer. Someone that's going to reliably do enough damage to wipe an enemy wave with one hit. So having a high crit rate where they'll crit reliably is necessary, right? So 19%, putting her in the leader spot, and she will be your farmer, so she'll be in the leader spot. This gives her an extra 19% crit rate. Her third skill, if we read the end of it real quick, has an extra 15% chance of inflicting a critical hit. That's 34% bonus critical rate right out of the gate. That puts her at a baseline without any gear at 49% crit rate. Now you can also give her a little crit rate from her masteries. I think it's 5, right? So that puts her at what? 54 crit rate straight out of the gate. So you don't have to focus crit rate very hard to get enough crit rate on her to do the damage she needs to do, okay? So that's one of the big appeals, is that crit rate and crit damage are very hard to build for early game. She takes a lot of that pressure off and allowing you to focus mostly on getting the damage out of her and not having to focus so much on getting that crit rate, right? But her third skill, it attacks all enemies, decreases turn meter by 20%, resets the cooldowns on each of this champion's skills if any target is killed, okay? That means that she uses a skill. If she kills one person, it's going to reset the cooldown. So you don't have to bother trying to get this cooldown reduced with skill ups. Now, getting the damage here would be nice, but it's really not even necessary. You can get the damage out of her without even bothering skilling her up. Again, it's very easy to get the necessary damage out of her. So she'll use this skill. In a perfect world, she wipes the wave. She goes to the next wave. The cooldown is reset. She uses it again. She goes to the next wave. So basically, 3 hits, and she's farmed the entire stage, right? So she can do this in 7 or 8 seconds. Again, being able to do this really fast enables you to make a lot of food very quickly, get a lot of silver very quickly. This lets you power up gear, pump out 6 stars, start building teams for further in the game. So your progression is going to be very fast if she's your first legendary. That is the reason that I've got her in at the number 2 spot. because she's just a progression machine and she's so easy to build. And she can be your farmer forever. I'm pretty deep in the game at this point. I would say I'm an in-game player, and she's still my farmer, right? So you get her early on, you get her rolling, and you'll use her forever, right? She's just excellent, and I think she sets you up for success, a wild amount of success, very early, very easily. So some of you might be wondering why she's not my number one spot, because I think I made a pretty strong case for Queen Eva there. She's not my number one spot because of Rey. I think Rey edges her out just a bit, because Rey can basically do what Queen Eva does. Granted, she's a little bit harder to build in the sense of getting the crit rate, crit damage. You do run into that issue. But I believe she can be a farmer, and it's not too much harder to get her capable of it than Queen Eva. But Rey also offers a very wide range of utility as far as where all you can take her in the game. Pretty much everywhere except Clan Boss, she's going to be fantastic for you. So let's talk about why. One, her leader skill, 33% speed lead in dungeons. 33 is quite a bit of speed, right? That's a pretty hefty speed lead for the dungeons. So that alone is going to make your life a lot easier. Every skill she has is AoE. Everything she does attacks all enemies, okay? So let's talk about it. Her A1 attacks all enemies, 30% chance of placing defense break on all enemies. So you remember earlier I was talking about Martyr having that A1 defense break and how useful that is. AoE defense break is a very important tool to have in this game, whether it be for arena cleave, whether it be for wave clearing dungeons, whatever it may be. AoE defense is a very sought after ability. You can farm a War Maiden from campaign to get it. If you have a Zargala or a Madame Sarah, something along those lines. That's why those champions, part of why those champions anyway are so good, is that they have an AoE defense break. Rey has one on her first skill. Not to mention that she has really good multipliers. So she's already doing heavy damage, but she's also putting AoE defense break up on her A1. That's fantastic. Her A2 attacks all enemies, inflicts 50% more damage against targets under debuffs. In most cases, it's going to be hard to go through a fight, especially in the dungeons, without placing any debuffs, right? So the enemies are going to have debuffs on them a lot of the time. Usually, it's, again, like I said, it's going to be hard to put a team of 5 together where no one's placing any debuffs. So she's almost always going to be doing extra damage with this skill, and again, it's AoE, so very useful. She can farm for you. She's going to drastically speed up the rate at which you can clear waves and get to the boss in dungeons. Really strong. Fantastic in arena. And then her A3 is a very strong skill. It attacks all enemies. It removes all buffs. And if you saw my video talking about epics and Madame Sarah's, there are very few champions in this game that remove all buffs from all enemies, right? She does that. In the same motion, she has a 50% chance of placing a freeze on all enemies. So even if they've got block debuffs up, she will take that off and then potentially freeze them. So she's bringing very heavy damage. She's bringing a speed lead. She's bringing an AoE defense break. She's bringing buff strip. She's bringing crowd control. She's doing so much for, again, basically every fight in the game except Clan Boss. I wouldn't recommend taking her into Clan Boss, but there's literally not another portion of the game that you can't take her in and have her shine. She can farm for you because, again, even if she doesn't kill everyone with her A3 or her A2, everything she does is AoE, and she's almost certainly going to be able to two-shot any campaign wave, even with pretty mediocre gear. So I think if I was going to start a new account and I could pick any legendary in the game, I would choose Rey. This is the order in which I would choose if I was getting to choose legendaries for a new account. Rey would be my number one choice. I think that she would overall bring me the most utility as an early game player. And again, not very hard to build. I think she'd bring me the most out of any legendary in the game. So that's my list. Again, I know that there's a couple that I'm going to see in the comments that y'all are going to be furious that are not on this list. I am going to do another one. There are 5 more legendaries coming. And again, it is also kind of subjective. I'm sure that there are going to be disagreements, and there might, even be some lacking in the next 5 that I do that you guys still think I left someone out. So again, don't hesitate to go down to the comments and make your case for anybody that wasn't on this list, or someone that you like. You know, I'm all for that. Again, I'm not saying this is set in stone or anything. I'm very interested in the discussion and hearing what you guys think about this. So if you didn't see who you were hoping to see on this list, give me a couple days. I'm gonna get another one out with another 5 legendaries that I think maybe might even spark a little bit more controversy than this one. So again, I hope you guys got a kick out of this. I hope it was helpful if there's any new players here and maybe you've pulled a legendary and you were unsure about how good they were or how you could use them. Hopefully I kind of helped touch on some of that for you. And again, I appreciate that you guys are digging these videos. I will try to keep these coming if you guys are into them. So that's it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, like, subscribe. Stuff really helps me out. Again, comments. I'm all about the discussion. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.